thank you very much for the opportunity. Really, I am very happy to be here sharing. I have seen that there have been many previous webinars in the past, so I am quite happy to be able to share with you today. So in this case, well, you already, I think, most of us know me since Alex already introduced me. I think it won't be necessary that I expand in this so much. However, the only thing that I will say is that I am usually sharing about SEO tips and advice and resources, not only mine, of course, but the ones that I find and relevant to be shared. So if you want to also follow me on Twitter, I am also there. At the end of this session, I will be also answering your questions. But if there's anything else that you may want me to answer, any question that you may have that might not be necessarily relevant towards this topic, please feel free to reach me afterwards in Twitter. So this talk is a little bit different from the usual ones, the ones that I usually share and give, right? And the thing is that most cases I target or a full process, international SEO or mobile SEO or more large type of topics, right? But in this case, I really want to focus on a specific step that any type of SEO process actually share. In independence of the market, in independence of the country, and not only for SEO necessarily, but really to develop the content and the information of a website. In some cases, we are lucky enough to be at the beginning of it and start working with our clients or a company right from the scratch. Right, and then we have the opportunity to help fulfill this type of needs and to provide a meaningful input that will drive not only the online marketing and or the search strategy, but the overall experience that the website provides towards their audience. Because at the end of the day, and you probably you have already seen this, instead of saying content that ranks or content that is linked or content that is popular in general, the topic that I wanted to focus on was the content that connects with your audience. So it's true, although content should be search engine friendly, this is not really their final purpose, and this is something very, very important and critical that we are all aware. Whatever we do in our day-to-day basis, especially if we are in SEO, because we are always trying to validate from a search crawling and indexing perspective, technical perspective, which is great. And then we also tend to think on keywords or just terms that are searched without necessarily taking into consideration sometimes that at the end of the day is people behind these queries, and these should be queries that are looking to answer some questions around our clients or our own websites, products or services at the end of the day. So the real purpose of the content that we generate, that we publish on a day-to-day basis on our sites, is to help us achieve our business goals, your business goals, your website's business goal. And these goals, they look more like communicating your news, that your news reach the appropriate audience, that they know about something that has happened to you. For example, if you have gotten investment, if you have expanded into a new country, for example, or content that sells your products or services, that they served as sales people in your own websites to clarify any type of concern that your users may have when searching for them, or even when arriving already to your websites, or when deciding which websites to go when they arrive to the search engine results even if you are in number one result, if you have the highest visibility, you want to make sure that this content sells yourself well too, or to provide relevant support. We should remember that our online marketing and SEO processes, they don't only target one point or one entry point or one moment of connection with our users, but really they should provide opportunities to connect with them along the customer journey. And this happens when they are searching and researching about our products or services, when making the decision to buy or not, and also when looking for support previous the sale and after the sale, right? So it's important that we think on this type of topics, on this type of content that will be able to provide support towards our users, and to better establish our brand too as a reference in our sector. I was talking this morning with a potential client, and he was telling me that last year they went through this rebranding process because they merged with another company, and now they have a new domain. Of course, they had to do a migration, but one of their main KPIs, really, of course, besides final conversions that they might have set towards their website, is the type of mentions and references and acknowledgments that their new brand get in some of their free markets versus the old brand. So what they want to see is that their previous brand mentions start to die out, and then the new ones are started to grow, right? So it's something very, very important. And at the end of the day, it's also about growing a community of loyal customers that will end up being also our best salespeople, our referrals, the ones that will talk well about our services and products, the ones who will link to us, the ones that will share about our news in Facebook into their own walls or other groups that exist in this social network. So at the end of the day, we need to think of content that will be able to fulfill all these different type of goals, and not necessarily the one that fills like the middle gap, like a mid step towards it. That is the one that is able to be ranked, right? So how to identify this content opportunity? It's clear that for this type of opportunities, we need to search more than just the search volume of some keywords, and that's it, for sure. So what it is important for me here is to share certain steps and to provide certain criteria that I follow in my own processes. So this is my key, I think, value in this, to provide this specific criteria to take into consideration and phases to follow. Because at the end of the day, there might be a lot of input, and we are going to see that there might be a lot of tools out there. I'm going to use many of them, a few of them, but it's actually about answering a few questions and sticking to a few criteria to make sure that this whole process is really cost effective. Otherwise, it can get out of hands quite easily, and of course we don't want that. So it's about identifying content opportunities that will connect the best with your audience tastes and necessities along their customer journey, with all the type of interaction that they might have with our website. So this process should be database to maximize efficiency, as I mentioned before. And the first that we should take into consideration should be our own successful content. Why? Because it's the one that we have already validated that works well with the same audience. Because at the end of the day, we are going to target audience that have certain preferences or is likely to have similar preferences to the one that we already have, unless we have been promoting ourselves and marketed ourselves with like really non-relevant audience and audience that is likely to not convert. But I don't think it's the case. I think that if we have already more or less a well-established website, we should already know and have some type of activity with this audience that is relevant towards us. So it's about first identifying this current successful content with our own data, our competitors' data, and our industry data in general. not only the one that is already happening with our own websites and competitors, but the one that we can see in general, the trends that we can see in our own industry. So that will be the start point. Of course, at this point, we want to get all the ideas, all the terms, all the topics. At some point, you are going to see that we are also going to use some tools and functionalities to run through these ideas and topics and prioritize them to identify how they have converted in the past, how they have been shared, which are the characteristics of the one that have been shared the most in the past, and to take all of this into consideration when coming up with our new or expanding topics for them. And this, beyond the ones that have already worked for us specifically, there is something key here that is for me is key, especially because I am usually targeting to and working with companies that have a multinational presence or multilingual presence, is to expand this research to other country markets. And you may say, oh, Aleyda, this is super tricky because, of course, I don't have support to do this type of research in Spanish or German or, I don't know, Italian. And also the audience there might be different than yours, which is completely right. It's like this. However, there might be some audiences that might be more similar to yours, like, for example, the ones that speak the same language, not completely different languages, and especially those that are in all the country markets that are more competitive than yours. For example, if you are in the UK and you definitely want to take a look at what is happening in the US right now, because it's probably there are really high probabilities that your own market in the US is going to be at least as competitive as the one that you are in the UK, and that they might be doing some content actions and marketing actions in general that have a content support that you really want to take into consideration, because at the end of the day the audience will behave in similar ways, and you want to at least take as a reference and then validate which your own data, the data that you have previously identified from your industry. But this criteria might be a great one to validate ideas or to expand ideas or to identify if they have done, for example, other type of content formats or types with the same topics that you are already covering and is already performing well in your own market. So this is key, and we are going to see how to get this data. And then the third step and the last step here is to identify, with all of this input, your potential content. And here is the key. A lot of people try to find always new related topics, new relevant topics. If you have identified something that has worked well in the past, the typical thinking is you cannot repeat yourself. You cannot do the exact same stuff that your competitor was doing 1 month ago or 6 months ago, 2 years ago. It will look bad anyway, and there won't be any reason because you think that you might not be providing additional value towards your audience, because at the end of the day, what we want is to provide value, and this is the reason why mainly they will choose you and will consume your content. However, it's important to think that these same topics that have been, and we have validated that have been quite successful in the past, may be targeted in other ways that will keep the relevance, what will continue to be as meaningful towards our audience, but they will be provided in different formats. For example, if it was just a blog post, you may want to do a checklist, you may want to do an infographic. If you have especially identified that this content has been previously shared a lot in Pinterest, and just an image in Pinterest, and so you may say, okay, so this is really a topic that was covered as a post, but then one of their images went really hot or popular in Pinterest. So there's there is a coincidence here of a complex topic or very long type of topic that can be simplified with an infographic or with a graphic, and then that this is audience that like to share in visual formats. So here is a win-win situation, right? So let's just reformat the content instead of trying to come up with something new, because you will be providing an additional value by making it easier to share, much more visual and easier to consume, for example. So we need to think on content not only about coming up with new topics, but also maybe new formats, expanded coverage to also cover it towards other countries. Like, for example, again, if you have seen that in America they have done certain surveys or certain market research that have gone really, really hot, then you want to expand the coverage to your own markets that where they might still not exist, right? Also to update a version of a content that existed in the past too. Let's say that one content or a post that went really, really hot 4 years ago and was sharing data about that industry or the services around these specific years or previous years. There is definitely a need to come up with something new, and it will be definitely valuable. And of course, you may want to reference that old version that might not necessarily even be yours. However, it's important that here you leverage this opportunity of something that you know that is already successful, right? And then by aggregation, and when I speak about aggregation, I speak about content curation, like, for example, lists or aggregation of content with different type of group by grouping them, or making even large set of data from what has already published and gone popular in the past, etc., etc. So it's about expanding our views around all this, right? So, for example, I'm working right now also on a project regarding digital nomads and remote work. And one of the hottest websites at the moment in this industry is one website that is called Nomad List. And what they did was just to aggregate the data of the hottest places to work from digital nomads, the pricing to live there, the weather, the internet connectivity. So all of these criteria that is important to take into consideration for this type of audience when selecting places, and all of these data already existed. They didn't come up with it. And the funny stuff is that in the case of this website, it was actually aggregated by the community. The owner of the website at the beginning created a Google Docs and then asked people, hey, do you want, I would like to create a list with the top destinations for digital nomads. Can you help me, if you have been there, to share with me what is the pricing of internet and the quality of internet and the usual weather at this time of the year, etc., etc. So you can see that you can even involve your community if you already have one, or if it is easy for you to connect with one, to come up with this and finish and executing these content ideas. Having said all this and having gone through the criteria that I will use, let's go content fishing, because I can imagine that this is what you are really looking to have, and let's answer a lot of these questions that I have come up and shared in the past with actual data, because this is important, that this should be a data-driven process. So the first question, again, started with our own content and the one that has been successful in the past. What is the best converting content? Let's go on. It's pretty straightforward. This is pretty easy. Go to Google Analytics and identify the one that have the highest conversion rate, the highest goal completion. You see, I am not talking here to go to the pages that have had more rankings. I mean, for our competitors, we are going to need to get this data at the end of the day, because of course we don't know about their internal conversions. However, in our case, since we know our own conversions, remember that the pages, the content that attract more traffic, sometimes it's not necessarily the content that at the end of the day end up being the most valuable one. towards a conversion, towards the interest of the user, and usually the one that makes the user convert at the end, the one that gets the final attribute for this conversion is not necessarily the one that ends up being the sole responsible for this conversion. However, it's important to take into consideration that since this content doesn't only live to attract but also to convert, that you should also, and it's important that you take into consideration not only the top traffic pages, the highest traffic and best, most attractive from a purely SEO perspective, but the one that converts the best too. So we prioritize them from a conversion perspective, and then we download these URLs and we input them to URL Profiler, which is a tool that I'm pretty sure that you likely already know it. And what we do here is we import the URLs and we connect with the integration that I have with the Google Search Console, with Search Analytics, and that we will get like this the keyword visibility, the keywords that have been used at some point to access towards these pages on our site. And we can see also here important information regarding which are the keywords that convert better, which are the keywords that are being used to access pages that are not necessarily that relevant towards them. So here again we can identify opportunities of content that can fulfill queries that already exist on our website but that we still don't have. So these are important little aspects, little criteria to look for when doing this analysis. This is not only, okay, here we have the URL, here are the keywords, okay, so these are the keywords that will be my first input when doing a keyword research afterwards. No, it's not like that. It's important to identify, are these keywords really relevant towards these pages? Remember that these are best converting pages at the end of the day. The content that not only attracts, but also actually connects at the end, because they usually end up buying from them. So it's important to take all this into consideration, and it's a nice first list to have. Now that we have this first list from around current best converting content, we go and expand it with the one from our competitors. And for this, we can go and use tools like SEMrush or Search Metrics or Sistrix to provide this. And I really like the functionality, this view that SEMrush has, because they provide directly the top traffic pages of any website. So I go to my competitors' profiles in SEMrush, and I see which are the top pages. These are really the typical listings on their sites, or are these post entries or articles that they have created, or Q&As or glossaries or support pages? What type of pages are these? What type of content is there? What's the role of this content in their traffic? I mean, it's like the 10 top of this are providing them the 80% of their traffic. It's important to take this into consideration, and then identify for these URLs that we have identified in the past, especially, which are the URLs, which are the keywords that are used to find these URLs. And of course, here we want to filter out and eliminate the one concerning their brand, their own specific brand, but all the rest of them I want to know. Like, for example, in this case, it's a website around small business lendings and small business finance. So I can see here small business funding, peer-to-peer business loans, peer-to-business lending, peer-to-peer lending business. Okay, so here is my first input. These are just inputs of terms for which I will want to come up with potential topics that I want to develop content for. And then the same, again, remember about different markets. So if I was targeting the US, now I do something similar for the UK and vice versa. And I always do something like this when especially when I have clients with Latin America, and I have always have at least a couple of them, to identify what has worked well in the past in Spain. That is a much more mature market in this case. And so I try to extrapolate this a little bit, because it's likely that I will identify different type of content that have been written, that have been published in some of these websites that might still not exist in my own market, right? So let's do this exact same process, two last questions and steps that I discussed, and do the same with the US if you are targeting to the UK or vice versa. And now that we know this is from a traffic perspective, from a conversion perspective, I want to also know which are the pages that are likely liked best or share better in social platforms, in social channels, and which social channel is being used to promote this content. Because remember about the goal of creating content that connect. So it's important that I make sure whenever I create this content that this is content that is going to perform well and or is likely to be liked in this platform where I see that most of my audience search. So again, I was providing the example before about Pinterest. But the same can be done also, for example, for Facebook or for Twitter, to make sure that this content, even when it is executed, right, they provide us the relevant social tags, so they look well when they are shared in this platform, and beyond the tags, if the format follows some of the patterns that are the formats that are mostly liked by my audience in Twitter, we are going to see that afterwards. But at the beginning, what we are going to see by using cognitive SEO, for example, you can go and you can compare not only from a link perspective, but also from a share perspective, which are the top share pages of your own website versus your competitors, and in which social channels they have been shared. So I can see here that there is a lot of there are a lot of shares in LinkedIn, because these are websites that are revolving the finance sector. So of course, it's not necessarily something that you talked about in Pinterest necessarily. This very hot in professional related platforms, right? So I can see how a lot of the shares of these websites are coming from LinkedIn in this case, and then also Facebook in this case. So I go and identify which are the pages and which topics are these pages covering, not only from my own site but also from my competitors. So it's great because maybe until now all my efforts have been focused in Twitter for some reason, but then I discover I should have been focused on these other social networks, or next time I definitely since now I need to start creating presence in these social channels, identifying the connectors there, the influencers there, to make sure that next time that I have to promote something, I have already an audience for them. And what about external resources? Because at the end of the day, all these potential opportunities of topics and content that already has performed well have come from my own website or the ones of our competitors, right? We need to expand them to see the industry ones. And we can do this by using Buzz Sumo. We start taking some of these top queries that we have identified in many different ways already, and we can start searching with them. And with Buzz Sumo, we are going to see again in general which are the articles, the pages that have gotten more shares in social networks. With which content type have been these articles, infographic, guest posts, giveaways, or videos, and we can again use Buzz Sumo filters to filter out the ones from of some market-specific languages or specific countries, and see what is this additional content that we can come up with there to get as a reference, as an additional input of ideas. And this is something important also for me, because usually when we do this research for SEO especially, we only focus and we only get information from search related, specifically tools and data sources. But I think that it's key to expand this with the ones that the content that is generally shared anywhere. And especially those that we have identify that have performed well with certain influencers and among certain groups of communities, right? And for me, Nozzle, this tool is amazing. Not only to discover content on a day-to-day basis, it's great to discover content, people that you follow, the content that they have published recently in social networks. You can, for example, monitor this the activity of your competitors, besides, of course, setting alerts in Buzz Sumo or in Google Alerts for them. But additionally, here is great for research. As you can see here, for example, if I search for a small business lending, I can see all of the latest articles that have been shared around them and the characteristics, and it takes them again into consideration for my research. And same with Pinterest. If I go and search for small business finance, I will see all of the content and the type of images around them, and of course prioritize with the ones that have the highest share, the highest volume of pins at the end of the day, and then come up with easy, and here's the important thing here, the easier one, the low-hanging fruit, to expand, to reformat, to update. Like, for example, in this example that I provide here directly, five financially healthy habits of self-employed. You can see here the huge amount of pins that this has and likes too. And at the end of the day, it's just an image. I really thought when I was going to click here that it was going to be like at least a checklist or at least a list of these habits, right? But, well, no, it's just an image that linked to a very relevant, a very popular post. Oh, why I don't take this into consideration when coming up with something similar, but instead of being just a post, is a checklist that is a graphic checklist or an infographic for this type of content that I know that is already liked in Pinterest in this case, and it's very popular in Pinterest, and there's interest around it. And beyond social channels and with all of this input that we have already gotten until now, I want to expand it. I want to expand it, and the previous one should be just the seeds of additional potential topics that I want to come up with. And how can I validate that there's a real search behavior around them? Well, I can use Google Suggestions, many suggestion tools that there are nowadays. The one that I really like, because first it's free, it supports both Mac and desktop, and I can assure that I'm not getting anything from referring them, but just because I really like them, I use them a lot, is the Infinite Google Suggest tool from RankTank. RankTank, they offer a lot of search-related tools, SEO-related tools that are completely free, Google Docs-based or desktop-based, but they are free in general. And very practical, useful tools to fulfill a specific need. So in this case, it's a tool that will give me infinite Google Suggest until I click on the button to stop. It will continue, or until we are banned by Google. You select which. So at this point, I stop when I got already 260 results for permutation, Google Suggest permutation of small business investment in this case. And you can drag the ones that you want to select to the right to come up with the list that you will export to your Excel list that you are gathering for keyword ideas or term or topics and content ideas afterwards. But this is great because it really allows you to see the behavior that you can see in real users. And then by using Huballin, if you still don't know Huballin, please do check it out. There is a free test of it, because again, you input here terms that you have already identified, keywords at the end of the day, queries. However, this tool, what it does is to come up with a semantic research, a semantic analysis of it, and the results that they give to you look more as the final topics that you will use to develop your content. So, for example, how to finance a small business, financing to purchase a small business, get financing to buy a small business, or a small business lending fund securities, etc. So you can see how you input some topics here, that this will be the keyword that you have identified in the past, and then you will come up here with actual queries. And here in this case, I selected that I wanted the transactional ones because maybe I really want to create content that is transactional focused to use to improve my sales, right? I am at this point. I don't want the one that is more informational or targeted towards some locations or SEO necessarily. And then the good part of this is that they have a smart keyword grouper. So all of these keywords that you have identified in the past, and then the suggestions that look more like queries, you get them here to this grouper, and it will come up with different type of groups for it. So in this case, semantically related or relevant groups. So in this case, it's general small businesses, and in this, all this small business investment. And you can see here how the queries in this case is how to do small business without investment, how to start a small business with less investment, how to start business from small investment, how to start your best business without investment at all. So you can see different ways to target the same keywords, because at the end of the day you will say, oh, Aleyda, these are the same keywords, but it's different ways, different focus to target your content. And remember that we are talking here about potential content topics to focus your content, and the way that this tool provides the suggestions is, these are the ways that can be more semantically relevant and that will connect better with your audience real concerns around your products or services. And in this way, your content won't not only be relevant towards certain terms, certain queries, certain keywords that you want to rank with, but also that they will connect with the real concerns of your audience. So for me, this is key, and this is why I told you that this tool is fantastic, because it doesn't only allow you to expand the terms, but the real value is not there, but it's like at the moment that I know the real only tool that will provide you to identify beyond keywords which are the topics around which you should really come up with new content ideas. And once that you have these content ideas, real content ideas here that you should focus on, and you can come up with real content to focus on. You can validate also the opportunity more, and here comes the SEO in me, of course, because you want to make sure that you start creating this content around the topics that are more popular, around searches that are more searched for, where you have less ranking difficulty, etc., etc. So again, Runtime has a great Google Docs based tool that is called Keyword Opportunity Finder. You come here, you include, in this case, small business investment, and I will get all the queries around that. Or of course, if you don't want suggestions, if what you just really want is to validate the number of results and the search volume and the difficulty, you add here directly the specific terms or permutations of those specific topics that you have identified from Huballin in the step before. And then you can also, if you want to do this type of analysis much more massively and with a web-based tool, not necessarily a Google Docs one, there is Sistrix. Sistrix provides this really interesting functionality through which you add a keyword for any of their supported markets. In this case, the UK small business investment. You not only get the search volume level, competition, cost per click, in case you are also doing paid search and want to make sure that you leverage this criteria also into consideration, and you get the top results, the top pages that are ranking at the moment. That again, this allows you to really see quite easily how is the best way to target this specific query. So, for example, in the summary result here, and for this search for small business investment, I can see that is this is money.co.uk guide about you should invest small business tax and breaks for investors. So it has a related interest regarding taxes and investors. So if this is interesting, you may want to take a look at it and see how it is targeted, because of course you can target the exact same topic in different ways. And then the number 11, we can see there is a guide in Forbes that is 5 essentials of small business investment. investing. Okay, so this is like the one that will be much more typical that you may come up, you have already may have thought about, because it's the typical tips type of article. But you can see how you can see completely different type of content here ranking for the exact same term. So it's the moment definitely to think beyond the keyword and think about the content format characteristics, and then again on the result number 13 here we can see starting a business, start with funding. So it's more of a guide type of website. But of course we want to take a look and see which one of these are doing best, the best, from a linking and from a sharing perspective, because you remember, you don't want only to rank well, but you want to take into consideration the one that is also being very popular, that is connecting and fulfilling better the user interests, and that is usually the one that is shared the most in social networks, right? So you can see here with one filter here in the same Sistrix report, the amount of links, the Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus shares, etc., and the visibility index of each one of these pages that are ranking well. So you can additionally take all this criteria into consideration. And of course, you can do the same and the same type of validation with Buzz Sumo to identify for any of these queries or topics that you have already identified at this point by validating with all of these criteria to target how people is already targeting them in general, which are the ones that are performing best or better in your industry. So for example, for small business investment, I can see that a lot of them are why post or how-to articles. Then videos, interesting. I can see how the ones in videos perform very well in Facebook. So I may want to, maybe there's an opportunity here. If I have seen that there are a lot of the potential content opportunities or topics that I have identified that have been only covered in text but not in video, and I have a good community in Facebook already, maybe it's the time to just reformat this same topic in video and push a few of them in Facebook to make the most out of all of these characteristics that will maximize the opportunities for my content to connect better with my audience preferences. And like this, you will have more or all of the ingredients that at least I do take into consideration when I start a new content mixing, to identify new content opportunities, new content ideas that will always, in one way or another, connect better with my clients' profiles and the audience of my client profiles and opportunities. This is something very, very important, because it's not this one success story and that's it, but these are the criteria that can be extrapolated, that can be used in any type of industry, in any type of content, and with actual tools that you can use, a lot of them, as you can see, for free. And remember, this is very important. I repeat it again because usually this is the hardest to sometimes include in your process. It's not about necessarily coming with something completely new, but to identify those topics that have at some point also performed well in your own industry or in competitive, also competitive relevant industry, and format, expand, update, curate. Sometimes it's not about being a content genius or someone with a really high creativity. I am much more targeted towards historically towards SEO and data-driven type of processes, and like this, I can make sure that I come up with content that I know that my audience will like, that will connect as much as possible, while keeping it well informed and database through the process. Thank you very much